Hello and welcome again to another episode of No Enemy Live podcast with your host Sly. And I'm still rolling solo, but Will's still getting better. And we're grateful for that. Thank goodness. But tonight we have a lot of ground to cover, guys. I want to get right into it. So strap in. Let's get into it, guys. So tonight I want to ask a question that runs through every single topic. What we're going to talk about tonight and stuff. And the question is this: who do you trust? Not politically, not theoretically, in real life, right now, in 2026. Do you trust the government? Do you trust the media? Do you trust the science? Do you trust the courts? Because every single story we're going to get discussed tonight comes back to the one question. And I think if you're honest with yourself, the answer is more complicated than it used to be. So let me start right there. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you trust nothing, 10 being you trust everything, where are you right now with the institutions that are supposed to be running this country? And when did the number change from what it used to be? If you had a number. Yeah, institutions ain't like it used to be. It's definitely changed a lot. And more importantly, if you cannot trust the institutions, who do you trust? Your community, your family, your faith, your own instincts? Because something has to fill that space. And what fills it matters more than people realize. So tonight, we're going to talk about Fauci. We're going to get into him. And that Ukraine war is still going on, guys. Still going on. Oof. And I'm gonna keep you guys updated on the DSA. Them lies they be saying. And people are listening. So first thing first. Oh, and maybe we'll get into the deportation. What Trump signed, executive orders about birthright citizenship. Yeah. All right, let's get started with Anthony Fauci. For most of the COVID pandemic, he was either the most trusted or the most hated man in America, depending on who you asked. He was on magazine covers. He was on merchandise. He was called a hero by half of the country and criminal by the other half. And last week, he sat in front of the United States Senate under subpoena, meaning he was legally required to be there, and invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination over 100 times. 100 times that boy said, I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. That's crazy. So before we get anywhere, what does it mean to plead the fifth? Okay, let's see. I couldn't say the word before, but it means they believe their honest answer could incriminate them. This is what the Fifth Amendment is for. It is a constitutional protection against being forced to testify against yourself, and it's right and every American has. So the question is not whether Fauci had the right to use it. He did. The question is, why did he need to? Yeah. Fauci. I guess they got his diary, and that boy was writing all kind of crazy shit. He loved the limelight. He loved the limelight. I don't know. His ego got the best of him, guys. That's what seemed to happen. His ego got the best of him. But ego gets everybody sometimes, you know. But they say you got to kill your ego. Kill the ego. And here's a part that gets complicated. Former President Biden gave Fauci a preemptive pardon before leaving office. A pardon. In theory, he already cannot be prosecuted for anything related to COVID. So if he's already pardoned, why is he still invoking the fifth? What is he afraid of saying? That a pardon did not protect him from. I don't know. He had a lot of stuff going on, I guess. Were you guys impacted by the COVID? Tell me. Let me know. Because I didn't really feel it, you know what I'm saying? I was still working. I was still out there grinding, getting that paycheck. But I do remember the roads being empty. Nobody on them motherfuckers. I guess I was what you call an essential worker. But it wasn't for what you think. I wasn't no cook or nothing, feeding people. I was out there making sure your house was okay. But yeah, he gave all kinds of shit he was saying for us to do, and we were listening. We were listening. Here's the history you need to understand. Fauci was called to testify before Senator Rand Paul, who accuses him of misleading Congress about gain-of-function research, experiments that make viruses more dangerous to better understand them, and whether U.S. government funding made its way to the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. These are not new accusations. Paul and Fauci have been publicly battled over this for years. But what is new is that Fauci is now refusing to answer any question at all. Over 100 questions. One answer. The same 24-word sentence every single time. This goes for everybody. I plead the fifth. Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering any of your questions. Strong. Right to the point. Now let me ask you something. If you were completely innocent and you've done nothing wrong, you had nothing to hide, and you already been pardoned for the crime, and they called you up to ask you in front of the Senate questions about what happened, and you still refused to answer 100 questions. Would you sit there and ask me anything? I have nothing to hide. Would that be you? I don't know. Yeah, I guess you can't say nothing. If you have nothing to hide, you can say whatever you want. But why would he be hiding? Why would he not want to answer no questions? They were asking him dumbass questions too, stupid questions, easy questions that made no sense, but they wanted him to answer a question, and he still played the fifth. So tell me that. You have something to hide, or you wouldn't be saying that. You would answer basic questions. You wouldn't answer the questions that you think would be COVID related, but you would answer, is the sky blue? Wouldn't you? Oh, that's crazy. Is it possible that both things are true? That Fauci is being politically targeted by people who want to prosecute him regardless of the facts, and that there are legitimate questions about what happened during COVID that American public deserves real answers to. Can both of those things be true? I say yeah. Yeah, both things can be true. I guess. Because Rand Paul is definitely going after him. A lot of people are going after him. They just voted to put him in contempt of court. There are some nays on there, but a lot of yays got it passed, so they got him in contempt. So what that means now, we have no idea. We just got to wait and see what it means. They're just gonna throw the book at him. Don't do it again. And you can't make money off this stuff no more, or stuff like that, bullshit like that. Will he get any jail time? The motherfucker's like, what, 80? Something like that? He's old, bitch. That bitch is old. Sorry, you're old. But just, I guess he's got to take accountability. He fucked up. So you guys get the shot? Shots. Yeah, I had to get one. I was working with a fellow, and he was adamant, and I needed to work. So there was a situation there. He's crazy ass dude. He loved politics, boy. That boy loved politics. I used to love politics before I met him, and then I started talking to him, and he just made me hate politics. And then now that I don't talk to him no more, I'm back in it, boys. He was just out there. Old Democrat. He called himself that, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, and I think we do need some answers. People were listening to the science, and it might have been wrong coming from Fauci. It's crazy, though. It was a hell of a time. It should change a lot of shit, though. A lot of rules got changed. And another thing, let me ask you this. If it happens again and they try telling us to stay inside and do all that shit, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I'm saying a lot of people aren't going to listen to the government this time, but people will probably be doing their own research, trying to ask AI, which is a good thing. Use AI. But if it happens again, I don't know. People aren't going to be wearing masks. They're going to be all protesting like a motherfucker. I guarantee it. People will say, hell no, we won't wear the mask. But yeah, I think we do need some answers. What Joe Rogan was doing shit. Do your thing, Joe. Do your thing. And they're on his ass, boy. Trying to ban that boy. Trying to throw him into the wolves. He fought it, though. You fight, guys. You got to fight. You got to ask questions. Don't just listen to people. You got to ask the questions. So the biology, we like to throw biology in this. The truth underneath this moment, the human brain has a very specific response to perceived persecution. When a person believes they are being hunted, when they believe the system is rigged against them, regardless of what they say, the brain goes into a mode researchers call defensive self-preservation. Rational disclosure shuts down. The instinct to protect the self overrides the instinct to communicate truth. And the response looks identical from the outside, whether the person is genuinely guilty or genuinely innocent, and generally afraid of a rigged process. The Fifth Amendment exists precisely because the founders understood the biological reality. A person who is terrified of an unjust system will say anything to survive. Second Amendment, including lying, if compelled to speak. So the right to silence was built into the Constitution as a protection against coerced false testimony. The problem is that silence, especially 100 times in a row, also looks exactly like guilt, whether it is or not. And boy, did he look guilty. I was just watching it, little highlights of it, and that boy's face, I don't know. I like to look at people's eyes because the eyes tell you. And his eyes look bad, to my opinion. my opinion, they look bad. He looked like these motherfuckers got a lot of shit on me. And I can't say nothing. And you know, when people can't say nothing, when people are attacking them, they go, oh my goodness, what's going on inside of that? Inside their body when that's happening, huh? So the question, guys, has America lost the ability to separate political persecution from legitimate accountability? You're on the team, man. You're on that team. Yeah, so if your team politically is saying the right shit, and sometimes they say bad shit and they don't care still, that's tribal. It is possible to investigate a public official fairly anymore, but has everything become so tribal that an investigation of someone on your side looks like a witch hunt and an investigation on someone on the other side looks like justice? A lot of people lost a lot of things during COVID. People, businesses, and they're definitely looking for somebody for that. And then I guess it's Fauci. That's the witch hunt. But I guess for other people who think it's justice, yeah, we need answers. They're telling us lies. And supposedly he was working with the Wuhan somehow. I forgot what it was, but talking to him, giving advice or some shit. I forgot what it was. All right, guys, let's get spiritual. Excuse me. Every tradition that has ever taken truth seriously has said the same thing, that the cover up is almost always worse than the thing being covered. Not because honesty is comfortable, but because truth has a way of surfacing regardless of how it is suppressed. Scripture. The Bible says in Luke 8:17, "For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open." Yeah. It all comes out, guys. The truth will come out. The truth will prevail. And we like the truth here, guys. All truth and opinions and feelings and other stuff, I guess. It's not a threat. It's a description of how truth operates as a fourth force in the universe. And the American public, which has been lied to about Vietnam, about weapons of mass destruction, about the extent of the NSA surveillance, about the financial crisis, has a biological right to be skeptical of official narratives. The skepticism is not conspiracy thinking. It is a reasonable nervous system response to a documented history of being misled by the people in charge. Yeah, we've been lied to all our lives, guys. And thank goodness for the internet. And thanks goodness for all the people who making things possible so we can get information. Thank you. Because without that, they still be feeding us lies. Well, hopefully people are starting to wake up. Wake up, wake up. Spiritually, mentally. You gotta wake up. Ask questions. All right. What is one thing about COVID, the origins, the response, the mandate, the science that you still have unanswered questions about? And do you believe you will ever get a straight answer? The origins. So they're saying a bat pooped on some shit and somebody ate it and they got it. That's one story I heard. And that's the first one that popped in my head. Another one, they released it to see what would happen. How would we react? That's another one. And the response about what we did, we listened to them. Everybody was getting that shot, except for those motherfuckers that didn't. And they're hard-headed. And you need hard-headed people. I lived in Florida, so we had DeSantis here. And it wasn't as bad as other places. I can't believe shit was going on like that, what I was looking at. Don't get me wrong, we had to wear a mask here, but it wasn't like crazy. But they said you're wearing this to protect you. Mask for me to protect you. I don't know if we'll ever get an answer. Fauci ain't saying shit, and he was in the middle of all of it. So I doubt we'll ever get no fucking answers. These people, I tell you. Deeper question. If it turned out that something went wrong in the lab, that mistakes were made that cost millions of lives, and those mistakes were covered up, what would you do to your trust in science and in institutions and in the people who told you trust the experts? Yeah, that's why I had to work with this motherfucker. Trust the expert. Get the fucking shot. You ain't gonna be able to work if you do. If you don't. The science of it. If they did leak it, that would be fucked up. But, people are fucked up anyways, and they'd be like, we got to see what's going to happen for the greater good. That's what they always tell you, for the greater good or for the safety. Safety. And the institution, we don't trust the fucking government for shit. So, I don't trust the fucking government for shit. Just don't let nobody come and fucking take us over and we'll be good. And don't get me wrong, we all have guns, so if they did try to take us, we all be fighting. We all be fighting. Speaking of fighting, guys, Russia is winning in Ukraine. In America, we're fighting two wars at once. Ukraine is in serious trouble right now, guys. And most Americans don't even know it. Because you're paying attention to Iran and Iraq. Or not Iraq, I'm sorry. Iran. That story we're getting told right now. Knox. Yep, that's the story we're getting told right now. Iran. The war has consumed most of our attention. And here are the straight facts. Russia has launched 35 missiles at Ukraine last week, 27 of them ballistic missiles. And Ukraine intercepted only one, not because their air defense failed, but because they have run out of interceptor missiles for their U.S.-made Patriot systems. U.S.-made. Zelensky said it plainly. Simply because there are no interceptors for the Patriot system, Ukraine has been receiving 3 times fewer anti-ballistic missiles interceptors since the start of 2026, largely because the Iran war has ceased supplies previously earmarked for Ukraine to be diverted to U.S. military and U.S. allies in the Gulf. Let that land for a second. U.S. military and U.S. allies in the Gulf is where all our stuff is going to right now. Because he said he's going to bomb the shit out of them, bomb them to oblivion. That's what he wants to do, Iran. So he used all our stuff, and now Ukraine has nothing. I'm sure they got some, but you guys are putting up a hell of a fight, man. America's fighting 2 wars simultaneously, and the weapons we promised to one ally are now being used to fight a different war, leaving the first ally defenseless against missiles hitting residential buildings in Kyiv. People dying in apartment buildings because America overextending itself. Or is that a strategy? Or is it what happens when a country starts more conflicts than it can resource? Is it just us supplying Ukraine? Ain't there other countries supplying Ukraine? I know we overextended ourselves, but I'm sure other countries can give them fucking bombs and shit. I know. I heard China's giving Russia fucking help and Iran help. So, and we're using all our military right now. Maybe we're practicing for China. That's who we really got to worry about. But if we're using all our weapons and stuff for Ukraine, for Iran, but don't get me wrong, Palmer Luckey. If you guys haven't heard of Palmer Luckey, he made a missile where it can be made in a car manufacturing company. So where they make cars, they can switch it up like they did in World War II and make bombs. So that's good for Palmer Luckey. Appreciate that one. Yeah. So, yeah, we need to bring manufacturing back, guys. Globalism killed us. Killed us. Fighting two wars. Yeah, China wants to take Taiwan right now. I'm sure they're planning on it. They're getting ready. Yeah, I was wondering international support. I guess disagreements between allied countries, competing global crisis, drawing attention to resources. Yeah, Ukraine has been fighting a full war scale for years. You know they're tired. Oof. You know the civilian population is fucking tired. Oh my goodness, all the people. And we've been living here comfortably, and that's the problem. We've been too comfortable. Some people need to be chased by a wolf, a lion, so they can recognize what we have. Come here, Knox. The infrastructure, civilian, oof. Power grids, water systems. But Ukraine's still even resisting. They're still resisting. Keep fighting, guys. If they're coming for your life and your home, fight for what's yours. So here's the history. Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2026. That stated reason was NATO expansion and alleged persecution of Russia-speaking people in eastern Ukraine. But the real history goes back much further. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union until 1991, when the USSR collapsed. Ukraine became independent and inherited the third largest nuclear arsenal on Earth. In 1994, Ukraine agreed to give up those nuclear weapons in exchange for security guarantees from Russia, the United States, and Britain, a deal called the Budapest Memorandum. Russia guaranteed it would never threaten to invade Ukraine. 30 years later, Russia invaded Ukraine. The security guarantee meant nothing, and Ukraine, which had given up the weapons that would have deterred the invasion, was left to fight with whatever the West was willing to send. So if Ukraine would have been able to keep their nuclear, nobody would fuck with them. But they willingly gave it up on trust. Trusting the United States, trusting Britain, trusting Russia not to go in, trusting the United States to help them, trust Britain to help them. See, where the fuck are they helping them? I hope they're helping them more than we are. Shit, we're running out. They need to jump in there real quick. Yeah, whatever we're willing to send them, that's what they get. It's still going on. What is it, like 4 years now they've been fighting? Holy shit. Yeah. Now, here's what Russia is doing strategically right now. North Korea has escalated its involvement by deploying missileers and over 100 ballistic missiles to Russia, specifically to take advantage of Ukraine's depleted stocks of anti-ballistic missiles interceptors. and test the performance of North Korean missiles in real combat conditions. Yeah, everybody getting ready. Everybody getting ready. What is everybody getting ready for? Russia is using Ukraine as a live testing ground for North Korean weapons, and Ukraine forces did not intercept any of the 28 missiles launched in one overnight attack because Russia is purposely exploiting Ukraine's depleted defense. This is a classic war of attrition. Russia is not trying to win dramatically. It's trying to exhaust Ukraine until Ukraine has nothing left to fight with. And that's what war is, guys. See, we would never win a war now. We wouldn't fight until there was nothing left of the country. People would be crying like they did in Vietnam. So every war I think we get into now is just going to be like Iran. Oh, we're bombing them, but we're not going to go in there and destroy them. American people wouldn't let that. Here's a cause and effect question, guys. America is running low on missiles in the Middle East. Ukraine is out of interceptors because their supply was redirected. Russia is intensifying attacks knowing there is nothing left. North Korea is testing weapons in real combat. All this has happened simultaneously. At what point does the country that is involved in multiple conflicts across multiple continents have to ask, are we actually strong enough to do all of this? Or are we stretched so thin that we are actually creating opportunities for our adversaries? Yeah, we're definitely stretched. We are definitely stretched. We got people everywhere, but none in the right places. Yeah. I don't know how much we got here in America. I'm sure we got a lot of troops here. A lot of good people ready to fight for what they believe in. Hopefully they're good. Or unless you're like that motherfucker when I was younger. I ain't gonna say your name, bitch, but I know this is what happened to your ass. Because you were a gang involvement all the time. You were heavy. And then all of a sudden you went to the Marines. Is it because you got in trouble? And they gave you an ultimatum? Jail or Marines? Yeah. And if I would have kept hanging out with your ass, I would have been in the same fucking thing. Probably. But I didn't. You did. You went to the Marines. I heard you were what were you? A fucking Marine sniper. Big deal. I think you're in Afghanistan, weren't you? You went over there a couple times or what? I don't know. You don't talk to me no more. It's probably a good thing. You probably fucked up. But you're probably not. You might be cool still. But the way your mind was, I don't think so. It probably fucked you up while being over there. But I hope you can get help if it did fuck you up. But if it didn't do anything to you, I hope you're living a good life, buddy. Yeah, we're definitely stretched too thin. In China, they can walk right over there and take Taiwan right now and be like, yeah, I don't see nobody coming. Thank you. Thank you, Taiwan. Give me the chips. Give me all your chips. And give us a pathway out into the ocean so we don't have to deal with you. Yeah. Here's the biological truth. Military planners, like all human beings, are subject to a cognitive bias called overconfidence bias. The documented tendencies of experts to overestimate their own capabilities and underestimate the complexity of the challenges they face. Study after study shows that the more expertise a person has, the more confident they become. And paradoxically, the less accurately they assess their own limitations. The same generals who said the Iraq war would be over in weeks, the same intelligence community that missed 9/11, the same strategic planners who did not account for what fighting two major conflicts simultaneously would do to the U.S. weapons supply chain. Overconfident bias is not stupid. It is the feature of the expert brain that becomes most dangerous precisely when the stakes are highest. Yeah, overcommitted. Has there ever been a time in your life you've been overcommitted? Time in my life, overcommitted. Yeah, I say when I went to school, when I was trying to go to school to be an X-ray tech, which I did pass the test and got my X-ray license, but it didn't work out from choices I made and circumstances, I guess. Yeah, pretty much circumstances and choices. That was overextension. I was working, going to school, going to the library. Yeah, get out of school at what 2:33. Go to work at 4. Get out at like what 11, 12. Get up. Oof, yeah, that was rough. I did it though. I guess younger when I was younger, playing basketball and football in school. I was working, doing basketball, and going to school same time, doing it again. Before. That's overcommitment, I guess. That's the only time I really felt a lot on my plate. School was a lot, but I did it. But did it teach you anything? Overcommitment, putting yourself out there too much where you think you can't handle it. I hope it did teach you something. Take it easy. Take it easy. Oh, Nacho Libre. I love that shit. Take it easy. All right, guys, let's get it. Here's the spiritual truth. There's a concept in almost every wisdom tradition called hubris, the overreaching of a human ambition beyond that is wise or sustainable. The Greeks built an entire tragedies around it. The Bible calls it pride going before a fall. Islamic teaching warns against the arrogance of believing your power makes you exempt from consequences. Every tradition has its own version of the same warning. At the point of which a person or a nation becomes most certain of their invincibility is precisely the point at which their vulnerability is greatest. America has been the world's dominant military power for over 80 years. We've been rocking, guys. And the belief in that dominance, the deep institutional assumption that America can project force anywhere on Earth simultaneously without consequence, is being tested right now in real time by arithmetic of missiles and the geography of two simultaneously wars. Will it ever come to World War? It might. It's already kind of World War. Everybody's fighting right now, but it's only in that little section. That little section. Whew. Little section of Europe, kind of Russia, and Mideast. I don't know if I had that like kind of Europe, Russia, and Middle East. What happens to a country's identity, to its people's sense of self-security, when the military power they believe was limitless turns out to have limits? And what comes after that reckoning? Well, I know they don't want to come here. I don't know. I know they don't want to come here. We got the Second Amendment. We all have guns, guys. We all have guns. And the people will fight for this country. America. America. Beautiful place. And if the government, that would be crazy. Like, we're out of ammo, guys. Go to Alabama. Go to Georgia. Go to New Mexico, Tennessee. Get their ammunition. Bring them aboard. Let's go. You know the motherfuckers be jumping on that train quick as fuck. Quick. We're gonna kill me some things. I don't know what we're gonna kill. I'm gonna kill me something. That's what crazy motherfuckers would definitely be going. Well, we had crazy motherfuckers in World War II when they went and fought for France, and when they flying the planes, America went and fought planes, and France weren't even in the war yet. But people were dying, and people over here felt they needed to do something, and they went over there and flew their planes and helped them fight the Germans. So all you gotta do is ask. I'm sure somebody will say yes. Ask, somebody will say yes. We fight for this country. Yes, we will fight for this country. Yeah, fight for this country. Yeah. We got another fight, guys. Fight against the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. We got to stop them. They're crazy. They're crazy, man. We got to stop them. The DSA just won Michigan, and the establishment has no answer. Let's see if I can get this right. I wonder if he was born here. I'm not sure. I was just wondering. Abdul Al-Sayed just won the Michigan Democratic Senate primary. If you do not know who that is, he is a DSA-backed progressive candidate who ran against the establishment Democrat backed by the party machine. Yeah, they were throwing so much money against that motherfucker, and he still won. Like, who's that? Who's that guy? Fuck, what's it? Massey, the governor or whatever he is, Senate Massey. They got him out by putting all that money against him, advertising against him, putting fucking shit against him. But this guy, he beat him. He won in Michigan, a swing state, the same state that gave Trump his margin in 2016. We won. The DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, is no longer a New York story. It just won a primary that matters in a state that decides presidential elections. Now, before we get into this, what that means, let me ask you something simple. When you hear the word socialism, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? First thing that comes to your mind. Do you even know what socialism means? Or are you just listening to everybody and following and not asking questions? For me, it means Mao, China. 45 million starved to death. Stalin, 6 to 20 million starved to death. They were Marxist, Leninist thinking socialists, but we're hearing that right now. Just listen to them, guys. And go back and listen to what they were saying back then. Let me ask you something simple. And where did the first reaction come from? Your parents, your church, your school, your own experience? Did you know what the word socialism came from? Because the answer tells you something important about how your brain was wired before you even had a chance to think about it independently. Yeah, socialism, man. Mao killed 45. He told them to stop farming, stop planting one crop and only plant this one crop. Yeah, that didn't work. Everybody starved. He didn't starve. He was selling grain. He was sending grain to other countries, still getting money so he could eat. And he made some excuse why they had grain. But here's the history that has to be part of this conversation. Every time socialism has been implemented at a national scale in the 20th century, the pattern has been remarkably consistent. In Cuba, Fidel Castro came to power promising to end poverty and fight corruption. Within 2 years, he wiped out all political opposition and socialized the entire economy. 65 years later, Cubans are still on rafts. They're still coming. And in Venezuela, a country with the largest proven oil reserves on earth, they have so much oil. Hugo Chavez implemented socialist policies beginning in 1999, not that far ago, not that long ago. By 2018, inflation had reached 1 million%. 80% of the country was living below the poverty line. In the Soviet Union, the largest social experiment in history, Stalin, 20 million dead. The system that promised to liberate workers produced a government that imprisoned, exiled, and killed millions of its own people for political dissent. The cause in each case was real suffering and real injustice. The effect was a new transfer of power from one elite to another, with the promise of equality producing a new form of inequality with a different name at the top. Yeah. Crazy. So let's see. There's democratic socialism, which is like Sweden, Norway, Denmark. There's social democracy, like Germany and Netherlands. And then you got the Marxist-Leninist socialists, which is USSR, Maoist China. And then you got the authoritarian communist regimes, North Korea, Cambodia. There's a bunch of those out there, guys. Yeah. So here's our honest question, guys. If socialism has failed in Cuba, Venezuela, Soviet Union, North Korea, what makes the DSA version different? It doesn't. They're just saying the same shit. They're trying to make it more prettier the way they say it. Crazy. Yeah, DSA, and then they're getting told to say this stuff, and then if they don't agree, and everybody's pushing back, and then they're told to say something else. Ugh, it's crazy. We'll talk about that. Is it the word democratic in front of it? Is that enough of distinction, or is that human nature? That socialism has failed in all these places, but DSA's version might be different. The tendency of people who gain power to use it to maintain power, something that no political system has ever successfully designed around. Yeah, we're in the same shit. It's all coming down. Hopefully, but not that way, but the way we can grow. If capitalism has reduced the largest wealth gap since the Great Depression, if it has made home ownership impossible for an entire generation, if it has left millions without health care in the richest country on earth, at what point does saying capitalism works become a disconnected from reality as saying socialism works? Well, capitalism definitely is the way to go. With Mao, China, when he passed away, the next guy that came into power, he started capitalism. It was kind of like capitalism, communist socialism. They take power, they let you do too much, but if you get too uppity, they bring you back down to reality. I heard they take you somewhere and reschool you of how things are. So yeah, he went that way. At what point does saying capitalism works? It works. You got China out of this fucking thing, and now look at them trying to take over the world. Socialism doesn't work, and we know that. But I guess capitalism ain't working right now because people are getting greedy, I guess. People are greedy. Greedy. But So the biological truth, guys, the Pew Research survey found that 52% of liberal Democratic voters now favor Democratic Socialist leaders. This is not a fringe position anymore. This is a majority within a major political party. And the biology of why this happened is documented in specific. Researchers on a political radicalization movement toward more extreme positions on either end of the spectrum consistently shows that it is driven not by ideology, but by pain. When people feel uncomfortably economically locked out, when they feel the system is rigged, when they feel their future has been stolen from them by forces they cannot control, the brain reaches for the most complete available rejection of the system it blames for its pain. This is not a rational calculation. It is a nervous system response. And the establishment, the Democratic Party, which has responded to this movement with confusion and resistance rather than with general engagement with the economic pain driving it. Yeah, they just want to keep on taxing, tax. They don't tell you it only lasts for a little while. Yep, the pain driving it is watching its own base choose a different direction because it failed to address the biology of what voters were actually experiencing. Question, guys, have you ever reached for something radical in your life? Not politically? Because the pain you were in made anything from familiar feel acceptable? A relationship, a job, a belief system you walked away from? And looking back, was the radical choice the right one, or did it produce its own version of the same problem? Yeah. People have radical choices, but you'll have radical outcomes. So it's the choice you make, guys. Hopefully it's the right choice. Build a community. And don't listen to this DSA because they're just telling you what they want to hear. Who do we have? What was that fucking lady? Hong? I think her name was Hong. She fucking said to get rid of Thanksgiving. In the United States, get rid of Thanksgiving, okay? She got pushed back. And then dumb bitch. They asked her, "What's your favorite holiday?" after all this. So I guess they did what China did to people. They brought her into the room and reschooled her of what to say because get rid of Thanksgiving in America. Come on now. Bad idea. And then they tell you, well, that's not going to work. You can't say that. We'll get rid of Thanksgiving when we get in there, is what the DSA is saying, I think, in my opinion. You can't say that. Wait till we get into power, and then we can get rid of Thanksgiving. So then she got pushed back. They ask her, "What's your favorite holiday?" She fucking says Thanksgiving. Are you fucking kidding me? She said get rid of Thanksgiving before, and now she says her favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. She was China'd. Sorry, but dumb bitch. So that's what they're giving you guys. Lies. All right, guys. We're getting there. So Trump signed an executive order. All right. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 on June 30th, 2026, that birthright citizenship is a constitutionally protected. The 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868 after the Civil War, says clearly that all persons born in the United States and subjects to its jurisdiction are citizens. The Supreme Court said that means what it says. Children born on American soil are U.S. citizens, even if their parents are in the country illegally or temporarily. Case settled, or so everyone thought. Okay, so my opinion on this, guys, you come here to assimilate, to live here. Okay, maybe you got another country that's your home too, okay? You come to the United States, you're pregnant, you're trying to stay here, you're trying to live here, but you might be rich and you have another fucking home. So you're trying to live in both places at once, but your child is born in America. Okay. But now, if you're coming here, like some countries have done, brought them specifically to be American, take them back to their country, be brought up in their society and their beliefs and their values, and then send them over here to do what? Bring their values over to us, take over this. So I can understand where they might be coming from, because if they're trying to do that, they're trying to come over and take over. Guys, look at Europe. They're taking over. No borders. They will take over. If you're not doing, I guess, what we're here biologically to do is have kids and keep on prospering and keep on growing. But if you're not having kids and you're shrinking and this population is coming and growing, and then they eat you and take over and get voted into stuff, and then who knows what happens? Well, I'm sure we have an idea. But he signed a executive order. He said, I don't give a fuck. Challenging the constitutional right of the Supreme Court, who just finished ruling on it 5 weeks earlier. Not even a year later, 5 weeks. So what happens if we keep pushing against the constitutional rulings that been written? It's a different time to understand that. We got to understand that. So, I don't know. Has America been here before? I'm not sure. Yeah, so, and thank you, Mama, for coming to the United States from Mexico. I love you. Love you so much. I got to learn damn Spanish, I tell you. The biological truth, what Trump is tapping into, though, with this issue is the oldest and most powerful in the human brain. The in-group, out-group distinction. The biological tendency to define a group called us and a group called them, and to protect the resources and identity of us against the perceived threat of them. It is ancient. It is universal. Every culture on earth has it. It is activated most powerfully when people feel economically anxious, culturally displaced, or uncertain about their future. The research on this is consistent across cultures and decades. When people feel threatened, when jobs are uncertain, when communities are changing faster than people can process, when the future feels less stable than the past, the brain's tribal circuitry activates, and the definition of who counts as us narrows. Birthright citizenship is a proxy for a much deeper biological question that is really about identity, belonging, and fear. So, yeah. Now I got an example. Final question. Florian Balogun, America's leading scorer at the World Cup, was born in New York because his mother's flight got canceled. Under the original executive order Trump signed, a child that in that situation born to a non-citizen mother would not have been a U.S. citizen. He would not have been eligible to represent this country. Think about that. The man who carried the American flag, who put his country, he was proud to be in, gone under a slightly different policy. What does that tell you about unintended consequences of drawing new lines around who counts as an American? Yeah, advice. But come here to assimilate, live in America. Don't bring them here and then take them back and then be radicalized and bring them back here and do what they do. That's not the way, I think. So here's what all four of these topics tonight have in common. And I want to say this plainly because I think it's the most honest thing. Every single story we talked about, Fauci taking the fifth, Russia bombing Ukraine, civilians because America ran out of missiles, the DSA winning in Michigan, Trump signing executive orders against a Supreme Court ruling. Every single one of them is a story about trust, about what happens when the institutions that are supposed to hold things together start to crack, when the science isn't certain, when the military is overextended, when the courts rule and the president signs orders anyways, when a political party owns voters choose something completely different because they stop believing the party had their interests at heart. The biology of this moment is clear. When institutions fail, when the systems people depend on to make sense of the world and keep them safe start to show cracks, the human nervous system goes into a chronic state of threat activation, and a population in chronic threat activation does not make calm, rational, long-term decisions. It reaches for strong men, Trump, the radical alternatives, the DSA, try to get rid of Thanksgiving, borders, prisons, for anything that promises to make the fear stop. We are watching that process happen in real time across the entire Western world simultaneously. And the spiritual truth, the one that every tradition points toward in this kind of moment, is that the answer to failing institutions is not better institutions. Better institutions are necessary, but they are not sufficient. The answer is people, specifically. People who have done enough internal work, enough spiritual development, enough honest reckoning with their own fear and their own bias, that they can hold a community together when external structures cannot. People who trust something deeper than any institution. People who know they are at the level of the soul so clearly that no political crisis, no war, no economic collapse, no institutional failure can take that from them. We got to look for that, guys. And that's what that's what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to build. Not political positioning, not a party, a community of people of capacity, of staying human, those kind. To keep seeing each other's humanity, even when everything around them is telling them to choose a side and stop thinking. That is no enemy. That is why we're here. Scripture. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. Not information, not opinions, not takes, wisdom and understanding. Those are the things that survive when institutions fail. Those are part of them. Those are things that hold communities together when everything else fails and it's falling apart. Those are the things that this show is trying to give you every single week. We're here to build that community, guys, every single week. I'll be with you guys. Keep on trucking. I'll see you guys next Sunday. I'm Sly. This is No Enemy Podcast Live. Get well, brother. We need you back, Will. Everyone listening, share this. Not for the numbers, because somebody in their life needs this. This kind of conversation, this kind of information, building a community. All right, guys. That's another episode of No Enemy Podcast Live. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you guys next week. Good night.